Hello, 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 and welcome back to DLA Alternative. It's your boy Brandon, and I hope everyone is doing phenomenal as always. And thank you as always to everyone who keeps subscribing, liking, and following this journey. But real quickly, I've got to say, we finally fucking did it, people. We have hit that 2K marker, and I am so fucking excited. It's an amazing day, and I hope you're having an amazing day too. But I could also say, all right, headphone warning, we are on the road to 3K, people, all right? We are finally there, and yes, I have started this channel. I just want to keep in mind that I started this channel with the first theory just a little bit over a year ago. On October 14th was the first theory ever posted on this channel. And you, as Stranger Things of the World fans of the world, all right, have grown this family to over 2,000 subscribers in just a little over a year. That blows my mind. Trust me, I would have never once thought that when I posted that mushroom theory that this was going to grow into this. But I gotta say, thank you to all of you. It just blows my mind. You guys have changed my life, and it's really fucking amazing, okay? But also, a huge thank you to everyone over on the DLA Discord family, all right? All of you over there have blown my mind. You guys just add so much light to my life. You have no idea. I love talking to all of you guys almost every single day. It's truly beautiful how this family has come together. So thank you. And yes, we got a big one today, people, all right? We got a big topic, and we're going to talk about the next set of character posters being 11, Max, and our girl, Erica, okay? And what I want to keep in mind real quickly is that we're basing these off of their Instagram post captions as well as the YouTube Shorts caption where they group all of these together. And in this group, okay, apparently the caption is the power these three hold. So I want to know your thoughts right off the bat, what you think that is. But let's get right into this one. I hope you guys like this one. And once again, thank you to everyone who has subscribed, liked, and following this journey. We are on the road to 3K, people, so keep growing this family with us. All right, let's fucking get it. Whoa, now that I'm calmed down a little bit, all right, let's talk about these character posters, all right? If you did not watch the first one, talking about the boys, all right, what you got to keep in mind is that these character posters have been coming out in group sets, okay? We had the boys, now we have these girls, and then the other ones that we got from this past weekend was our older group, okay? The teens, being Steve, being Nancy, Jonathan, and Robin, all right? And we're going to talk about that in the next video. But what I want you to keep in mind is that each of these characters, okay, are getting a post on Instagram with their poster, as well as they're getting grouped in their own groups, how they're being released on their YouTube short, which has a different caption, okay? And that's the one we're talking about today. The boys that we just talked about in the last video was the original party. That was their caption, all right? And this one is the power these three hold. So I've been very curious of trying to figure out what that could mean, because as we know, all right, our girl 11 has power. We know that already. That's no surprise. And as we know, in season 4, we see that Max has some sort of ability where she's jumping from mindsets while she's being infiltrated. So that's very interesting as well. The biggest question here, people, is what power does Erica Sinclair have, all right? And I'm excited about this one because I would love to see Erica Sinclair have a huge role in this season, bigger than she has, because she didn't have that big of a role, all right, last season, as much as she did in the third season. I was kind of disappointed about that, but no doubt in my mind, this season she better, all right? And this is sounding like it, that she's going to have some significant role, or she's going to be a key to figuring this stuff out. All right, so let's just get right into this one, because our first quote was our girl 11, all right? And a lot of people probably aren't even connecting this, and they don't even want to like this one, but it says, I have to go back, my friends are in danger, all right? And you guys might like that quote, but if you connect where this comes from, all right, it's from that episode that all of you little Stranger Things fans out there that you don't like, all right? The ones that don't like the Lost Sister episode, yeah, I'm calling you guys out, because me personally, I think that's one of the most important episodes, whether you think it's irrelevant or not. That's the only episode in this show that is strictly about our girl 11, whether Kali's involved or not. It's the only episode in the show that does not pretty much involve anyone else, okay, except some key characters, but it's all of 11's story. So you got to keep that in mind, and that when she realizes that, this is right when she is about to leave Kali, and she has a realization that her friends are in danger, she needs to go home. And what you got to keep in mind is what Kali says right after she says this is she says, remember, your mom sent you to here for a reason, or sent you to find me for a reason. And we get no answers really about that still. So you got to keep in mind, it's a little weird that that quote is being used and then all of a sudden that's said directly after. So I want to know your thoughts about that. But we were talking over in the DLA Discord, okay, strictly about the connections here, all right? And what we found is right before this, okay, right before 11 says this, when she's up in Kali's like bedroom or that bunker, okay, in the warehouse, basically she's holding on to a flannel, okay, her flannel from home, and she's starting to have all of these flashback memories, all right? And the thing that's interesting here, people, is that 2 of those flashback memories are actually the direct quotes that we just got from our boys' posters, being Mike and Dustin. The one that where Mike says, "You're not the monster and you saved me," and then the one from Dustin saying, "She's our friend and she's crazy." Those 2 exact scenes and quotes are said right before this quote 11 says here. So that's very interesting to these connections, and I want to know your thoughts about that. And the one main thing about that is connecting, say, season 1 quotes to season 2. So how does season 1 and season 2 connect? And we've talked about that in other theories. And the big thing about that is that season 2 starts with Kali, okay? It doesn't start with any of our other characters. It starts with this brand new character that we end up knowing nothing about other than the little bit we see. So I want to know your thoughts about that. And I want to know the bigger question. Do you think this is a hint that Kali is coming back one way or another? So just let me know your thoughts, whether it pisses you off or not. I'm so happy that we hit 2K, so I could give a fuck. But it's a good episode. You better watch it, and it's very important. That's all I'm going to say. Done with the shit talking. I love each and every single one of you. Let's keep going. Because what I want you to keep in mind is when 11 says this to Kali, she's having the realization that she needs to go home, okay? But the thing she's realizing right before that, like we just said, is that she's realizing that she's accessed power in order to save her friends before this, being a year before this, when she saved Mike from almost sacrificing himself by jumping off of a quarry. And that's how those scenes connect, all right? And she basically realizes that she doesn't really need Kali, okay, to realize her true potential, in my opinion. And that could be very important to why we really don't see Kali, why we don't see 11 try and contact Kali, because Kali was kind of teaching her in a way that 11 didn't really need to access it that way. And she was accessing her power differently, okay? And what we see as an example of when Mike jumps off the quarry is that 11 has power that we somewhat saw in season 1, but enough power to do it to another human being. And as we see in season 5, okay, the little bit we get is that 11's gonna be Super Mario fucking jumping over that bus that we see in the junkyard, okay? So 11's gonna be accessing some sort of power. What I want you to keep in mind is that there's kind of another connection to season 4 in this quote, okay? She doesn't say it directly the same way. However, she acts the same way, and that's connecting Max, oddly enough, because when she's in the Nina project in season 4, and after she realizes her true potential, and she beats Vecna and puts him into the Upside Down, or Henry #1, whatever, but basically when she realizes that, okay, right after that in the Papa episode, she basically, what does she do, people? She goes and locates her friends, okay, because they tell her what's going on in Hawkins, and she realizes her friends are in danger and that she needs to go back. But the friend that she realizes in specific danger is Max, and that's the next character quote we get, which is very interesting to this, how all of this shit just connects with the slightest little hint. So let me know your thoughts about that so far. But what you got to keep in mind, the little bits and pieces that we get, that 11 looks like she's training, okay? She looks like she's going to be training in season 5, and I'm calling it that's going to probably be the very first time we see 11 in this season. That's why we're getting a little bit more of that than anything, in my opinion, about 11 training in the junkyard and all that shit. But my point here is that, well, as we know, location is everything, say, to these gates, but is location everything to 11 accessing her true power? That's a question I want to leave you with, because what you got to keep in mind here is when she goes to Kali, okay, she realizes she needs to go back, okay, in order to help her friends. when she's in the Nina Project, okay? She realizes she needs to go back in order to help her friends. So the question is these gates, location means everything. We hear that from Alexi, okay? But the question is does that mean everything to Eleven's powers? And can she do these and access these powers on her own, okay? Because you got to think all of these other situations as well, other people are being influenced in trying to help her access these powers. She's not doing it herself and realizing her own true potential. So basically, that's what I'm thinking we're going to see a lot of 11, is that she's really going to just try and focus her own mindset. She's not going to listen to probably a lot of people. She might follow the plan of her group, but she's really going to try and focus her mindset to access her true potential. So let me know your thoughts about that. Because now that we're going to continue, the odd connection that we're kind of talking about here and that what we see in season 5 is that junkyard, okay, where 11 looks like she's training. Well, oddly enough, okay, people, Max's quote, now that we have this random connection to Max, okay, basically Max's quote is in that junkyard on top of that bus, okay, and it's the significant line that we talk about all the time in this scene, that how I have told everyone in multiple theories that this scene in this location is going to be extremely significant because there's a lot of firsts that happen here. And this is an example of one of those firsts. And this is the first time that we see Lucas and Max really connect, where she says, I like talking to you, Stalker. And basically it's after Lucas kind of comforts her because Max, for the first time, opens up about her past, okay, being her father and being about Billy. Well, what's interesting about that here, people, is not only is this junkyard a location where we see Max open up, but we also see her open up, okay, at the graveyard when she's doing the Dear Billy letter, which is very interesting. And what I want to connect here is that's when Max being infiltrated, and she's being infiltrated about stuff before in her past she never had experienced before, right? Well, what's significant about her quote here, all right, is the very first time that she ever experienced these monsters. That's why it's extremely important. There's a lot of firsts that happen there. That's the first place that Hopper and 11 meet. That's the first place 11 is actually becomes a part of this original party, which the boys quote was the original party. So it's very interesting how these quotes and these character posters are transitioning through the slightest little hints. But let me know your thoughts about that, because I want you to keep in mind there's a weird vibe I'm getting here, and I'm not liking it too much, okay? Because as we know, Max is gone. She's in a coma, and I'm most likely thinking that we're going to see her in a lot of scenes, okay, within her mindset, all right? Because a lot of the season 5 promos, even her character picture, she's pictured in her season 4 clothes, and a lot of people have been connecting this, okay? But what I want you to keep in mind here is the quote that they use is, I like talking to you, Stalker. Okay, so what you got to keep in mind is that Max is trapped in a mindset, okay, and could be trapped connected to Vecna, all right? And what we're seeing in season 5 promos, people, is when they're doing these watch parties, okay, Max, being Sadie Sink, is partnered with Jamie Campbell Bower, who is Vecna, okay? And they, to me, are looking like friends, like they are connecting and they are watching something, okay? Or should we say stalking something? So I want to know your thoughts about that, but could Vecna and Max somewhat find a connection, and could we end up seeing this Mad Max character that we were first ever introduced to, and that name actually come about, okay? Where she starts realizing, okay, and she basically finds a connection, like a friendship with Vecna, okay? And maybe she ends up joining him, okay, to reshape the world however they see fit, okay? If you know the little hint I'm talking about. But let me know your thoughts about that. Let's keep going. But our next character, all right, is the big one here, people. Erica Sinclair, all right? And her quote is strictly when we first ever meet her, which is very interesting to this, because I want to keep in mind that how are we going to find a connection from Max to Erica? Well, the very basic connection is that she's Lucas's sister, and that Max is pretty much Lucas's girlfriend, okay? They weren't together at the end of season 4, but they were. Let's fucking be real. But my point here, people, is their connection strictly is Lucas, okay? And Max has love for Lucas, and Erica has love for Lucas, whether we see it or not. But we see a little bit of hint of that at the end of season 4, okay? When they're kind of connecting when she's making the spear. But what I want you to keep in mind is their main quote, okay? The power these three hold. And Erica's line, like I said, is just going to be the very first time we ever see Erica, which is very interesting. And the very first time we ever realize Lucas has a sister, okay? But you might be wondering about the connection here, all right? Have you not realized the connection about the sister reference here? Okay, 11's quote's from the Lost Sister episode. Max's quote is from the time where she talks about Billy and becoming his sister, pretty much. They talk a little bit about that. And then when we see her open up again, that's talking about her being a shitty little sister. That's kind of how she ends that Dear Billy letter. And now we're seeing the actual sister in the show, or one of the actual sisters in the show, being Erica Sinclair, who connects to our boy Lucas. So it's very interesting. And you might be wondering, well, what about the lost sister? Well, just keep in mind, I mean, we don't see a Holly Wheeler here, which is very interesting, but there still is this mysterious episode being the second episode of the season, and this is the second group of people, okay? And we don't know who the vanishing of blank still is going to be. And do I think it's going to be Erica? No. But do I think it could be Max, who this is referring to? Possibly. But the question is what power does Erica Sinclair hold? All right. And I kind of hinted at it in the last one that I have an idea, right? I found some connections here. And I started analyzing because there's the obvious things that we see with Erica Sinclair in season 3 specifically, when her and Dustin are in the air duct and they start talking. And basically Dustin figures out that Erica is extremely good at math, okay? And she's good with numbers. She even says that. And then he also realizes that she's a nerd, okay? But what you got to keep in mind is we see little bits and pieces of Erica's talent and her knowledge throughout this season, in season 3 specifically, which is extremely important, all right? But what you got to keep in mind is we first ever see her basically talk about that she doesn't have any phobias when they're asking her to go up in the air duct. She says, I don't have any phobias. So that's something you got to keep in mind, is that Erica's not afraid of shit, which is very obvious. But then the next thing we figure out is that she's into politics, okay? Because she starts talking about capitalism and shit. And so that could be a thing as well. But the thing that I want you to keep in mind is that we kind of get a little bit of a hint with involving politics, not just with the military and with the Russians, but with Hawkins, okay, specifically being Mayor Klein and the people who have been in charge of Hawkins. So does that mean Erica might get involved with something or figure something out more to say the past politics of Hawkins? That's very interesting as well. Or could there be something more to Mayor Klein's house that we didn't see there, all right? Maybe some more shit that he had hidden. But the thing you got to keep in mind, people, about Erica Sinclair is that you might not have ever realized this secret hidden talent that Erica Sinclair has. And I've held off about this because I was going to do a specific theory about her involving this whole situation. And oddly enough, she's apparently has some significant power that she holds, according to this caption. But what I want you to keep in mind, people, is that the significant power I think Erica Sinclair holds is that she has a photographic memory. And you might be very confused about that, but there's plenty of hints with what Erica says throughout the show that prove that to us, okay? And one of those being, all right, is when they enter Starcourt, and it's in the Flayed episode, and they're sneaking around, okay? And then they come across where all the Russians are, right? Well, they're hiding behind those little barrels or whatever, and Erica goes, first floor, northwest. And then Steve doesn't know what she's talking about. And she goes, the comms room. She basically says that the door was open for a second and I saw a bunch of lights and shit in there. All right. So that's a little proof that all it takes is 1 second for Erica to remember that much information, right? That's someone with a photographic memory, people. Now, when we figure out that she's a math whiz, okay, how does she describe that? She basically describes their exact path that they took, and that's how she remembers all of this distance, okay? She's not just good with numbers, okay? She remembers everything that she saw and basically how much distance that they came from, okay? So that's a photographic memory. She remembers exactly where they're at in this place, which is extremely interesting. But what you got to keep in mind, there's so much more to this, okay, is that someone with a photographic memory could be very essential to this show, okay? Not just trying to say, like, look for somebody or focus their mind how we see Max do, all right? That's possible we could see Erica do that, which would be extremely interesting. But what I want you to keep in mind is that she can remember information that she's read if she has a photographic memory, or information that she has seen, okay? What I want you to keep in mind is if Erica's going to be significant to helping this situation or figuring out information or being the one to remember information that may get destroyed, specifically say the Hawkins library that is destroyed and there's no more books or information or archives. However, what you got to keep in mind is the very first little hint that we ever got of Erica Sinclair for season 5 is a picture of her in Mr. Clark's classroom, all right? And what I want you to keep in mind is that schools have school libraries most of the time, or at least books to learn about shit and learn about history. So if Erica Sinclair is going to be that significant key to figuring out and remember this information, because they might not have the time to be writing this down or going researching this shit, that's very significant to her role, in my opinion. And what's funny about this is you might not have realized it, but her quote specifically, people, is when she tells Lucas at the very beginning that you are such a nerd, okay? And that's the very first intro we ever get of Erica Sinclair and what is being done, people. A picture is being taken on a Polaroid. So basically, it's a little fucking symbolic hint right off the bat when we ever meet Erica in season 2 that she could have a photographic memory, and we would have never known that. Is that not fucking wild, people? But that's the thing here, is the main key here is this started with 11. So I want to end this off with that and that whole lost sister connection, okay? We know that Max is lost, and we know that Erica apparently now has some sort of significant power. But what we see is that she's good with numbers, she's good with location, and she's good with remembering knowledge. So the thing about that is could she be significant to helping find Max, or at least helping find something, say specifically a comms room or somewhere where commands are being dealt out from, say specifically an upside down dimension where 11 might have to go while they try and help and find Max. Who actually knows? But the thing about that is, people, and what I want you to keep in mind, I've mentioned it before, and I mentioned in the title teaser theory, all right, a long time ago, but the season 7 episode here, people, which is part 2, all right, and this is the very last character in the second group of character posters, all right, what I want you to keep in mind is that that is 3 episodes. Erica is the third poster that we got in here. And one of those key symbols here is when she sees the comms room, or somewhere where the commands are being dealt out from or being voiced out from specifically. Well, season 7 of this season is called The Bridge. And another reference for the bridge is also the bridge of a ship where commands are being dealt out from. Now, if you're significant and you understand the connection to the First Shadow, all right, that there's a connection to Brenner, Henry Creel in this original First Shadow origin story involving a disappearing ship being the USS Eldridge, that, no doubt in my mind, if they bring that into this and that's somewhere that 11 needs to go, no doubt in my mind, our girl Erica Sinclair is going to be the one to find that, all right? And say Susie, okay, how we see her geolocate something in season 4, basically we could see that as an example of the knowledge and the things that we're going to see Erica Sinclair do in season 5. However, let me know your thoughts. I know this was kind of all over the place, but there's these random connections here, people. And I want to talk a little bit more about Erica Sinclair because I have some more things that I want to discuss involving this, her whole character, about certain things that we see. And I'm not going to lie to you, the only hint I'm giving you is that I'm getting a little nervous either for Lucas or Erica Sinclair based off of this short analysis I've done so far. However, let me know your thoughts about this, people. I hope you guys like this one. And once again, thank you, motherfucking thank you for 2 4,000 subscribers, people. It blows my mind. I am extremely happy, all right? Join the DLA Discord, all right? I'm going to put the link in the description in this video as well. Join the family. Come join the madness. We're going to be chatting it up, and we talk about Stranger Things theories almost 24/7. It's fucking madness, and I love each and every single one of you guys over there. You already know, but more importantly, I hope you guys like this one. Thank you to 2K, and we are on the road to 3K. Keep subscribing, liking, following this journey, and you guys already know, we out.